Suddenly, I got this visceral fear for just a split second that something was behind my tree, watching me. Right about that time, I heard a grunt down in the canyon on my right side, near the creek. The pitch was deep. It was almost as if it was pissed or annoyed that I'd started the fire. I'm Alvin, and this is Common Ground Horror. I took the city bus as far as I could go out of town, then hiked on the paved road to a dirt road, which led to a relatively isolated reservoir outside of Eugene, Oregon. I had a map of the area, and I'd spotted a trail on the map, one that I wanted to explore. When I got there, the trail turned out to be quite overgrown, more overgrown than I expected. I followed it as far as I could, until it just disappeared. The trail just ended. Or maybe I lost it. Either way, I was in the trees now, off trail, alone. I continued up the ridgeline through the trees, looking for a spot that seemed good for camping. Eventually, I found a spot I thought looked cozy. It straddled the ridgeline, and on both sides, it was steep. Steep downhill in both directions. On one side was a creek, running through a valley. I couldn't see it because of the steepness and the trees, but I could hear it. Faintly. Water moving over rocks. Down below, in the dark of the valley. It was starting to get dark, so I gathered some wood and lit a small fire beneath a big tree. After clearing the area around it, looking back, it wasn't the smartest idea. It was summer. The area was dry, and the ground was covered in tinder. But I was cold, and I wanted the fire. So I built it anyway. There were a lot of dry sticks around that I would break in half to tend the fire. The snaps of the sticks was loud. It echoed through the trees, sharp, sudden, breaking the silence of the forest. This was right as it got dark. The sun had fully set, and the only light was my fire. And suddenly, I got this visceral fear for just a split second that something was behind my tree, watching me. I turned around. I looked into the darkness. Nothing. Just trees. Shadows. But the feeling didn't go away. Right about that time, I heard it. A grunt. Down in the canyon on my right side. Near the creek. The pitch was deep. Low. Guttural. I thought it was a bear. That was my first thought. A bear, down in the valley. I told myself the fire would keep it away. That's what fire does, right? It keeps animals away. So I kept the fire going. As the night started to set in, and darkness enveloped my world. Outside the firelight, everything was black. I couldn't see more than 10 feet in any direction. Then I heard it again. Deep, loud, echoing up from the canyon. And again, separated by 5 or 10 minutes, breaking the silence of the night. Sometimes it sounded closer, sometimes farther away, like it was moving, up and down the creek, pacing. It was almost as if it was pissed or annoyed because I'd started the fire, like I had disturbed something that didn't want me there. Every once in a while, I would snap another stick for the fire, and the sound would echo into the night. Snap, and then silence. And then, a few minutes later, another grunt. Like whatever it was responding. Eventually, I got spooked. Really spooked. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear it. Moving around. Getting closer. Then farther. Then closer again. I looked up at the big tree I was leaning on, and I made a decision. I'm climbing that tree. I'm getting off the ground. Whatever this thing is, it's not gonna get me up there. I climbed as high as I comfortably could, probably about 40 feet, high enough that I felt safe, or at least safer than I felt on the ground. I found a spot where I could wedge myself in, between branches. And I stayed there until morning. I just listened. That's all I could do. Listen. The fire below me eventually died down, and the forest went completely dark. And I sat there, 40 feet up, in the pitch black, listening. I would hear the grunting throughout the night, below me, not much closer than where I'd heard it before, but still there. Every once in a while, breaking the silence, reminding me that I wasn't alone. It kept changing positions, up and down the creek, and on the ridge line where I'd come from, like it was circling, patrolling, making sure I knew it was there. I managed to sleep, though on and off, in short bursts, right until the sun rose. About an hour after first light, I heard something walking right below me, where I'd had the campfire. I had left my bag down there with all my stuff and some food. I stayed in the tree, watching, listening. Whatever it was down there, right where I'd been sitting the night before. After a while, eventually I climbed down, slowly, carefully, watching the ground down below. When I got to the bottom, I checked my bag. It was untouched. Nothing had been moved. Nothing had been taken. I didn't wait around. I packed up as fast as I could, and I proceeded to retrace my steps to get the hell out of there. I figure if I just followed the ridge line back down, I would locate the spot where the trail had disappeared, and then I could follow it back to the dirt road. But somehow, that didn't happen. I kept walking and walking and realized I was somewhat lost. If it hadn't been for the compass I'd brought, I would have been a lot more scared. But I knew the direction I'd come from, so I followed it, and eventually, I stumbled out of the bushes onto the dirt road. At the time, I didn't realize how risky that was, to be out there by myself, in unknown territory, isolated from civilization, and not having told anyone about it. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew I was out there. If something had happened, nobody would have known where to look. It could have gone bad. Really bad. But I guess that's what I was looking for. A little vulnerability. A little risk. A little test of myself. But looking back now, I think about that night differently. I think about the grunting, the way it circled, the way it responded when I snapped sticks, and I wonder what it was. I told myself it was a bear. That's what I needed to believe at the time, to keep myself calm, to keep myself from panicking. But I've heard bears before, and that didn't sound like a bear. Bears don't grunt like that. Not with that rhythm. Not with that purpose. It was almost like communication. Like it was telling me something. Warning me. Or maybe just letting me know it was there. That I was in its territory. I've read stories since then about people in the Pacific Northwest hearing similar sounds. Deep grunts, vocalizations that don't match any known animal, coming from the woods at night. And I wonder, I don't know what I heard that night. I don't know what was down in that canyon, or what walked below my tree in the morning. But I know this. It knew I was there. It watched me. It circled me. And it chose not to come closer. Maybe the fire did keep it away. Maybe climbing the tree saved me. Or maybe it was just never interested in hunting me in the first place. Maybe it was just curious. Or territorial. Making sure I knew I was the intruder. Either way, I never went back. Not to that reservoir. Not to that ridge line. I've camped plenty of times since then. But never alone. Never that far off trail. And never without telling someone where I'm going. Because that night taught me something. It taught me that the wilderness is not empty, that there are things out there, in the dark, in the valleys and on the ridgelines, things that we don't see, things that don't want to be seen. But they're there, watching, waiting. And when you're alone, 40 feet up a tree, in the pitch black, with nothing but the sound of grunting echoing through the canyon below you, you realize how small you are, how vulnerable, how much of the world we don't understand. I don't regret going out there, but I respect it now. The wilderness, the isolation, the things we can't explain. And if you ever find yourself camping alone, off trail, in the Pacific Northwest, and you hear something in the dark, something that doesn't sound quite right, trust your instincts. Climb that tree. Keep that fire going. And wait for daylight. Because whatever's out there, it's real. Even if you never see it, you'll know. If you've lived through a nightmare you can't explain, I want to hear it. Send your stories to commongroundhorror@gmail.com to be featured on the channel. This has been Alvin for Common Ground Horror. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.